The town was called Hollow Creek, a fitting name. The town was hollowed out, empty, forgotten. Only the old-timers remained. They whispered of Hollow Manor, a grand house on the hill, now a decaying husk. It was said to be cursed, haunted by a tragedy long past. No one dared to go near. The manor loomed over the town, a constant shadow, a reminder of death and despair. Its windows were like empty eyes, staring out at the world, daring anyone to enter. Most people avoided even looking at it. But the stories persisted, passed down through generations, whispered in the dead of night. The stories told of a family torn apart, of betrayal and murder, of restless spirits seeking peace. They spoke of a curse, a darkness that clung to the manor, and to anyone foolish enough to spend the night. It was a place of fear, a place of sorrow, a place best left undisturbed. Mark, Sarah, Emily, and David, college friends, seeking thrills. They heard the stories, legends of Hollow Manor. They scoffed at the warnings, dismissed them as folklore. They wanted proof. They craved adventure.
We should spend the night,
Mark said, his eyes glinting with mischief. A challenge.
Why not? What could happen?
Her voice held a nervous excitement, the thrill of the unknown.
Are you sure? Maybe we shouldn't.
Her words were ignored, drowned out by the others' enthusiasm.
Let's do it. It'll be a laugh.
He didn't believe the stories, but a part of him, deep down, felt a flicker of unease. He pushed it aside. The old iron gates creaked open as if warning them. They drove up the long, winding driveway. The trees on either side were gnarled and twisted, like skeletal fingers reaching out. The air grew colder, heavier. They stepped out of the car. Silence pressed in on them, broken only by their own breathing. The manor loomed before them, imposing, menacing. The setting sun cast long shadows, making the house seem even more sinister. They entered the manor. The air inside was stale and cold. The smell of decay hung heavy. Dust covered everything. Cobwebs clung to the walls like shrouds. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their own footsteps. Each step echoed through the empty halls, like the beating of a heart. They explored the manor, each room filled with decaying grandeur. Faded portraits stared down at them. Their eyes seemed to follow their every move. They found a library, the shelves lined with dusty books. They ran their fingers along the spines, feeling the weight of forgotten stories. In a dusty corner, they discovered a diary, its pages brittle with age. The faded ink told a tale of love and loss, of a family torn apart by greed, and of a terrible secret hidden within the manor's walls. As they read, the temperature dropped. A cold wind seemed to blow through the room, extinguishing the candles they had lit, plunging them into darkness. They heard a whisper, faint at first, then louder, a name, repeated over and over. The name sent chills down their spines. It was the name of the woman in the portrait, the woman in the diary, the woman who had died in the manor, murdered, they said, by her own brother. Section 5. The Walls Breathe. They spent the evening telling stories, trying to ignore the strange noises, the creaking floorboards, the whispers coming from the walls, the feeling that they were being watched. But the fear was growing, taking root in their minds. Emily felt a cold spot right next to her. She shivered.
I don't like this. I want to go home.
Her words were met with nervous laughter, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That night they tried to sleep, but the house was alive. Moans and groans echoed through the halls. Footsteps paced outside their doors. They huddled together, terror growing with each passing moment. The diary's words came back to them. The walls breathed. A portrait fell from the wall, shattering on the floor. A blood-curdling scream pierced the night. Sarah was gone, vanished without a trace. Panic set in. They were trapped in a nightmare. They searched for Sarah, calling her name, but their voices were swallowed by the darkness. Each room they entered was colder than the last, the air thick with dread. They found strange symbols scrawled on the walls, written in what looked like blood. The diary. They had to find the diary. It held the key to the secrets of the manor, and maybe, just maybe, the key to their survival. They raced back to the library, but the diary was gone. In its place, a note, scrawled in the same chilling handwriting as the symbols on the walls. "We will never leave." The house creaked and groaned around them, as if it were closing in. They were trapped, hunted. Their fear was palpable, a tangible thing. It choked them, stifled their screams. They were running out of time. They found themselves in the manor's basement, a damp, dark, and oppressive space. The air thick with the stench of mildew and decay, and something else, something metallic, the smell of blood. They stumbled over something, a body, Emily. Her eyes were wide with terror, her face frozen in a silent scream. Despair threatened to consume them. They were surrounded by death, hunted by something they couldn't understand. They had to escape, but how? The house was a labyrinth, and they were lost within its twisted corridors. The temperature plummeted. Their breath formed clouds in the air. They heard a noise, a low growl, coming from the shadows. Something moved towards them, its eyes glowing red in the darkness. The creature lunged. Mark pushed David out of the way. The creature slammed into him, teeth bared. Mark screamed. David scrambled back, fear lending him strength. He grabbed a rusty pipe from the floor and swung. The creature howled in pain. It turned its glowing red eyes on David. Then, with a final snarl, it vanished, leaving behind only the echo of its rage. Mark lay still, his chest unmoving. David felt a surge of grief, but there was no time for mourning. He had to escape. He saw a light, a faint glimmer in the distance. Hope surged through him. He ran towards it. The light led him to a hidden passage, a secret tunnel. He didn't hesitate. He crawled through the darkness, the taste of freedom spurring him on. David emerged from the tunnel, blinking in the sunlight. He looked back at the manor. It stood on the hill, silent, menacing, as if nothing had happened. But he knew the truth. He had seen the darkness that lurked within its walls. He was the only one who escaped. Mark, Sarah, Emily, all gone, claimed by the manor. He knew he would never forget the horrors he had witnessed. The whispers, the shadows, the creatures. They would haunt his dreams forever. He left Hollow Creek, never to return. But the curse of Hollow Manor remained, waiting for the next group of unsuspecting victims. The manor stood on the hill, a testament to the darkness that lay within the human heart, a warning to those who dared to listen. Some places, it seemed, were best left undisturbed.